Well, you need to have good association. You need to have people inspire you. Like you want to do sports, you hang out with sports people. You want to do business, you hang out with business people. Depending on your association, you determines your lifestyle, your way of doing things. Then it just becomes natural. Till you get trained up, and once you're steady, then you can do on your own. It's not such a big deal when you've practiced. We're on? Hare Krishna. So welcome all. Thanks for showing up. We're going to have a little workshop on Sankirtan, Bhukti Sibhushan, how to share the message and how to apply ourselves to a practice. My name is Navina Nirada. I'm from Zurich, Switzerland. I've been in Bhakti in this practice since 1984. So it's only my second time to Seattle. Huh?
When you came here for the first time?
Yeah, it was, I believe, 2012. Yeah, 9 years ago. We were just breezing through on a tour. Om Jnanatimirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Litam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Siyadvaiti Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim yat kripadam aham vande Sri Gurudinataranam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanyeshwaram Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna. So as I was saying too, what's your name? Janice. Dennis. Okay. As I was saying to Dennis, we're talking about practice. So practice makes perfect. Anything that you do for 10,000 hours, you become perfect at it. 10,000 hours translates into 7 years full-time dedication. So if you want to become expert at anything, you got to put in your time. It doesn't just, few people are born perfect. The majority has to work at it. And it all depends on, as I was telling Dennis, good association. That the company that you keep is what will impact you. So depending on your sangha or your association, you will take on traits, you will take on the nature of those people. Just like you want to get into business, what do? You hang out with business people, right? You go where they are, you congregate with them, and you learn from them. And naturally, there will be so many opportunities for business. If you want to get into sports, you associate with sports people, and naturally you will pick it up just by being around them. If you want to become a drunk, you go down to the bar or to the park and you hang out with those people, and then naturally, you'll figure it out. So you want to spread the message of Krishna consciousness, you associate with people who are doing that. Now, somebody might ask, well, why do you want to share this with others? What's the point in it? Isn't it just enough that I got it and I'm doing it? Well, in one sense, yes, but in reality, no. Because sharing means caring. If you truly want to value and appreciate something, then the test of your appreciation will be in the application of it. Like you can say, I really value something, but unless you're actually, you can sit on chairs or however you're comfortable, okay? It's not just for old guys. The test of the pudding is in the tasting, so how do you know that something is actually good? Unless you have tried it, and unless other people have tried it, and you can see how they react to it. Mm-hmm. Like, in science, you have thesis or hypothesis, than enthesis. You have to do the laboratory experiment. You have to actually go out there and do it and see how it works. How does it affect people? So we all had some experience on how Krishna consciousness affected us. You remember the first time you got a book, or you heard the holy name, or you got prasadam, you went to a temple, and you felt like, yeah, there's something there, right? There's something special. But then, how to communicate this message in a relevant, in an attractive, and in a sustainable way? Well, that requires a little bit of intelligence. Just like you can see, Srila Prabhupada, he started out in India, and he started publishing a magazine. And he went around and he distributed that magazine. Till somebody told him, why don't you write books? They're more permanent. You know, people, they read magazines and they usually discard them because it's not something that you really necessarily keep. So he thought, okay, I got it. I'm going to write books now. And he started writing books. So he took feedback from wherever it was coming, and he implemented it. The greatness of a leader is in how good he is in taking on board feedback and implementing it. If you're not good at implementing feedback, it's going to take a very long time and it's going to hurt a lot because you'll be very slow. Your learning curve will be very slow. So, before you can be Krishna conscious, you have to be conscious. You have to be aware. You have to actually be there. Conscious presence. Chaita, or consciousness, is the greatest gift. It's the expression of the soul. It's what we're made of. Sat Chit Ananda. We're conscious beings. But if I'm not conscious, if I'm not aware, and I'm not really paying attention, then it's really hard to learn because you don't even notice the mistakes. You don't even notice what's going wrong. You may think, well, it's just another day, right? It's just as usual. I'm just being myself. And that can mean many things. So the topic of today's seminar was, Vineet, how to find your adventures in Krishna Sankirtan. Yeah. Everyone in this world is looking for adventure. You guys like adventure? You do fun stuff? Or you just do homework and chores? I mean, I don't know. But, you know, when I was young, when I was 15, I went to boarding school in the Swiss Alps, and I wanted to have a lot of adventure. I wanted to have a lot of fun. I was a sports guy. So I wanted to travel the world, have a lot of friends, and become the best at what I do. And Krishna has given me everything. Again, it took 7 years. It took 7 years. I started in 84. In 91, I was #1 in book distribution in the world. So I had to work at it 7 years full time in order to perfect my skill. And in the last 40 years, I traveled the world 20 times. I got friends in many places. Krishna has given me everything. He has also taken away a lot, and he has given me other things. And he has made me understand that real adventure, real excitement is not when you get a letter that says, you know, you won the lottery, or, you know, you entered the lucky draw, because you got plenty of those messages, right? But real adventure is when you step out of comfort zone and you get into stretch zone, into that great unknown where there's room for growth, where you feel like, I got to depend on Krishna. I got to depend on the Lord. I can't do this on my own because I'm out of luck. I stretched it as far as I could, but now I need a little help from above. And that's where grace, that's where mercy, that's when that empowerment starts to flow. As soon as I think, hey, I figured it out, I got a little gas in my tank, you know, I got a little credit on my phone or in my game, whatever it is that you're gaming on, got a bit of fruit in the fridge, and you're just leaning your elbow out the window and you're just, you know, coasting around. That's not where growth happens. That's not where stretch or, you know, improvement happens. Improvement happens when we feel a need to actually change something. I don't know if you feel a need to change something in your life, but if you were to walk around downtown Seattle, you would see that things are not going too great. There is people, you know, living on the street, off the street, under the bridge. There is all kinds of people who are suffering. And not just poor people, but also well-to-do people. You talk to anybody and you say, well, how's your mind? You know? Are you anxious or peaceful? And you'll be surprised. People will give you a piece of their mind. They will tell you what's going on. And you can just, the face is the index of the mind. Of course, now people are wearing masks, so you can't really see it that much. But you still get a sense of, where they're at. Because we know where we're at. So everyone's struggling on their own level. So you have to have some sense of why. Like you're here not because this class is a requirement for passing your degree or else, but because you had a sense of need. You felt like, let me go to the temple, let me see Krishna, let me hear something, let me improve myself. Without hunger, there is no real point to food, right? If you had eaten plenty and somebody were come to offer you food, it just makes you nauseous. You're like, nah, take it away. I don't want to see it. I'm okay. So we can talk all we want about the how, the where, the when, the who, but unless the why is answered, why you're doing what you're doing, your meaning and purpose, all the rest is meaningless. It's superfluous. So work along those lines. Ask yourself, why am I doing what am I doing? Why do I practice spiritual life? Why do I want to share spiritual life? And yes, there's plenty of good answers in the books, and they're all valid. But a experienced teacher does not want to hear the things that you just memorized and just spit out at the right moment. But the experienced teacher wants to know, why do you want to do this? What's your reason? What's your realization? And also, your own mind will ask you, why are you doing this? Right? Do you have a mind? Does your mind ever ask you why you're doing what you're doing? Do you have dialogues with your mind sometimes? Or are you mindless? Are you human or are you robots? It could be that we have some AI here, like we got a few bots who have been deployed just to spy on us, So you got to make sure that who's who, right? Huh? You can't ask Siri, how's my emotional intelligence? That's just not on the menu, So you better come up with your reasons. Not your dad's reasons, not the teacher's your reasons. Why do I want to do this? Because people on the street will ask you the same question. Why are you doing this, dude? You're making 6 figures. You're a master. You're a PhD. You're doing it. You're living the life. But why you're doing this? I want to know. And unless you have a good reason, it will be very hard to communicate the message. Of course, you can say, I'm coming from over here, I'm going over there, take this, give me some money, get lost. Like plenty of people are flipping plenty of product. But that's not really going to have impact. People want to know, why are you doing this? Huh? So that's your homework for today. Make a list of, why do I chant Hare Krishna? Why do I read the Gita? Why do I want to share this message with others? And it'll grow as you grow in experience and in proficiency. And also your own mind will ask you, and unless you have good answers, your mind will tell you, dude, you're wasting your time here. Get back to the cave, Play some more video games, eat some more ice cream, watch some more movies, do some more of the other stupid stuff. Because the mind can be your best friend or worst enemy. You read that somewhere in one of those good books, right? Yeah. And it's true. You may be a super capable person, but if your mind is not on board, you can't do nothing. You can't even get out of bed. And it has happened to each and every one of us, that we were lacking the drive, the motivation, the inspiration, and we couldn't even get ourselves together to go out and do anything. So find your own meaning and purpose, why you're doing what you're doing, and write it down. And I know some of you have photographic memory because you're very sharp people. But Prabhupada once said, to remember means to write it down. And you can write that down. To remember means to write it down. Okay? So if you want to remember something, you write it down. All right? It's just like you got to go for exam. Do you have exams sometimes? You just do flashcards, you know? And you just go through them. And after a while, you can do it blindfolded. You can do it in your sleep. It becomes second nature. But then, if you have actually a smart teacher, at some point he will ask you, what does that mean? What does that mean? Not just what's the answer, but what does it mean? And that will most likely make you trip a little bit, because that wasn't on the flashcard. You have to actually start thinking along the lines of, oh, does it mean something? There's a meaning to this? There's a purpose to this? And you'd be surprised. Yesterday we were out at the University District with the food truck, and a lot of people come there and pick up the food. And then I approached them, gave some books, and they're like, oh, now I get it. This is why you're doing this. I want to know why you're doing what you're doing, so now you give me a book which will explain the why. So I'm really glad that you're telling me why you're doing this. Because there could be a million reasons. It could be just tax write-offs. It could just be, you know, you got nothing to do on that night. Or, you know, you want to meet a bunch of cool kids or a bunch of pretty girls, or whatever. You know, it could be so many reasons. It could just be PR, that you want to make a good show of, you know, what kind of nice people you are. I mean, there's all sorts of reasons, right? But people want to know, why are you doing this? Like, you could be out there doing a lot of other things. Why do you want to distribute books? So work on the why. Once the why is clear, once the purpose is clear, the how, the where, the when, the who becomes automatic. That just goes natural. That just flows natural. So work with the why. Just like you ask your mom, right? Why should I do this? Right? And then she says, I'm the boss. That's why. Right? Just got to follow orders. But at some point when you grow a little older, you still want to know why. You know, like, what's the meaning behind it? Is it just ritual, or is there actually a purpose to it? Because humans are smart, you know, because they're part of Krishna. Smarter than AI, smarter than any bot, smarter than any technology. Because humans, they're sentient beings. They sense if something is wrong. They have that inbuilt in them. Machines don't. So, Krishna consciousness is a great adventure. If you want to have adventure, if you want to have fun, join the Sankirtan movement of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There's plenty of adventure. Like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he lived 500 years ago, is the one who propagated the chanting of Hare Krishna. He took it out of the temple into the street, which was an unheard of thing before. They thought this is just for a select group. It's just for the very rare special, you know, for the in crowd. But he said, no, this is for everybody. And he took it out on the street, to the marketplaces, to where all kinds of people were who had no qualification. And he said, here it is, take it. And that was very frightening for the smartas, for the caste people, for the people who thought, we own this, this is our business, this is how we make our money. He was just ruining their whole game, their whole gig. So they ganged up on him. They ratted him out to the administrators. And those people came down on him and tried to give him trouble. But he conquered them with love, with kindness, with compassion. So the same thing that has happened in every tradition is meant to happen again. When you do what you have to do, some people will question, some people will ridicule, some people will criticize, some people will object and argue, or just ignore you. And you have to live with that. That's the way of the world. That's the way of the world. And that's where growth happens. That's where you become a bigger person, a better person. And the adventure, it's part of the package. First time I went out to distribute books, I was just watching others. I was just holding the books and watching them. I was just watching and listening, watching and listening. And then I started applying what they were doing and saying. And some of it worked, some of it didn't work. I had to tweak it. You know, like in technology, stuff doesn't work sometimes. Have you noticed? You have to tweak it, right? You have to play with it. You have to... And then all of a sudden you find the way how it can actually work. You have to adapt it. So I went door to door and I knocked on a lady's door and she took 3 books. And 2 other people took 1 book, and the whole day I distributed 5 books. And I was flying high. I was like, wow, this is amazing. And my coach, he asked me, so how was your day? And I said, fantastic. And I told him. And he said, why didn't you show her the whole set? Like, she took 3 books. She could have taken everything. And I said, well, I didn't have a set. He said, tomorrow you go back to that lady. And so the next day, I went to that door and I knocked on her door. And she opened up, and I said, hey, do you remember me? She said, yeah, you're the kid from yesterday. I was 15 years old. And some housewife, some random lady. And I said, yes, I came back because yesterday I did not have what I wanted to show you, because for the super special people, we got something very special. So can I show you? She said, yeah. So I just put the books on the table, and she said, yeah, take it. And I was like, man, this works. If I have faith in the instructions of my coach, it actually works. Why? Because he has walked the path. He has done it. So he knows. You got to have faith in the process. He who hesitates is lost. If you can't pass that ball, you're going to lose the game. If you don't have faith that the other guy is going to catch it and score, you will always fumble and stumble and mess up. So Sankirtan is a team sport. It's a team effort. One person can't do it. Prabhupada realized that very early on. He was alone in India, and it's, over 1 billion people, all the usual obstacles. He had to write, edit, get the paper, print, distribute. He had to do everything by himself. And he just got nowhere. And he realized people weren't really paying that much attention. They weren't that interested. It took him 8 years to publish the first canto. The first canto in 3 volumes. It took him 8 years. And he realized, I'm getting too old. I can't finish the Bhagavatam. I can't do what my guru, my teacher, told me to do. So what do you do when the job is too big? Come on, smart people, work with me. They don't pay me enough to do all the talking here, So what do you do if the job is too big? Break it into certain parts, yeah, okay. What's another option? Get more people involved, yeah. You're going to recruit a team, right? And so he saw that people are not showing that much interest. So let me go to America, where everybody is so passionate, they're so driven, they're so obsessed, they're so mad with whatever it is that they do. They take it to the max. If I get those people to get into Krishna consciousness, it will spread to the world. And it's exactly what happened. It's exactly what happened. So right now we're sitting here, and there is the 6 of us. You were saying there's going to be 5 people, so you were right. But Prabhupada was talking to the 4 walls. Nobody was there. He was just dictating. But he had vision. He knew that this was meant to happen. So, you ever been on a farm? You ever seen all those lush crops and all that stuff growing? It all starts with little seeds. You ever seen seeds? They're very small, A farmer is not insecure. A farmer knows that there will be fruit in due time, because he has faith in the system. He trusts nature. In a similar way, when you preach or distribute books, you know that from each and every book, a book is a seed. So many fruits will come. So, Prabhupada came alone with the Bhagavatam, and now we have over 1,000 centers, millions of devotees, and 500 million books have been distributed, which are more seeds, which will get more people involved. Now, of course, we think, I want to see it in my lifetime. Like I'm a young guy, I want to see results. I want to see something happening. Well, get involved. Do something. My teacher asked me to open a center in the Bay Area, so we opened a little storefront in San Francisco. I meet a lot of, especially Indian kids, and Latino and Asian kids, who go to martial arts class. I don't know if you have friends who go to martial arts class, but you have skinny little, Sanjay Agarwal or whatever, and they're going to go to martial arts and scream and shout and kick because their parents think that if he learns martial arts, he'll get ahead in the game, right? He'll be better at whatever he has to do in life. But actually, if you want to get ahead, you learn Sankirtan, because the Yuga Dharma, the process for this age, is the chanting of Hare Krishna and the distribution of Hare Krishna. Which means if you learn how to communicate the message, you will make big impact, and you will have tremendous, tremendous success in your life. Just like the first thing you learn is, when you meet people, you learn how to talk to them. Have you ever met super bright, super brilliant people who were totally dysfunctional, who could not open their mouth and say one coherent sentence unless they were talking about their little, thing that they wrote their theses on? But they were totally goners in real life. So you learn the art of actually communicating with people. And that means you have to be focused. You play ball sometime? You have to keep your eye on the ball, right? If you watch the crowd, you're going to lose. You're not going to make it. So you have to stay focused. That's why we chant japa. You learn how to be focused. Okay? And you learn how to pay attention, and you learn how to ask questions. So ask him, what's his name? He told me, Dennis. Now, if I say, Dennis, I'm really glad you came down here because, I just drove 13,000 miles, from Sacramento to San Diego to Miami to Vermont to upstate New York to Michigan, through Iowa, over to Colorado. I forgot a few. And then, up through Utah to Seattle. And I'm really happy you showed up here because I feel Krishna consciousness is a great adventure, and it's made big impact on my life. And people are looking for adventure. So I'm sure you can also experience that adventure. And the greatest adventure is sharing the message with others. Because people are looking for something of substance. They're looking for something of quality. Do you ever shop online? I know these are rhetorical questions, but sometimes you have to ask the obvious, Do you ever find yourself checking Google reviews and seeing, okay, is this good? Is it really what I need? Etc., etc., etc. Why? Because people want things of quality. They want something of substance. The Garuda Purana, which is one of the scriptures, says that you can only become perfected when you associate with perfected beings. Only by association. And unless you show kindness, you show compassion to people who are less fortunate than you, you will lead a superficial life. You will only stay on the surface. You will only be on the superficiality. You won't be able to actually penetrate and get deeper into anything unless you actually show compassion and help others. Did you ever help a friend to do their homework? And besides feeling good about it, did you actually learn something in the process that you didn't know before? Because it made you think, like, why doesn't he understand it? What's so difficult about it? And then you had a little discussion, and then you actually figured out that, this is how it works. So, it's a process. It's a process. Now, I'm not going to do a big demonstration on how to do books and all that kind of, because that's better done in practice. But basically it means appreciate and share. Whatever you value, it's very easy to communicate it to others. If you don't value it, it's very hard. That's why we read the Google reviews or the Yelp reviews, right? You want to know the best reviews and the worst reviews, right? That's how you see how it's going. So, Krishna consciousness has a lot of potency. And if you want to accelerate your progress, just like at the farm, you've seen that soil, that black soil, where you put a seed in and stuff practically explodes, That accelerates the growth. So if you want to accelerate your growth in Krishna consciousness, have a fertile soil. You make your soil, your heart, fertile by daily hearing and chanting, by reading Prabhupada's books and by chanting Hare Krishna. Because people are going to look at you and they're going to say, okay, you want to give me that thing, fine. But are you doing that thing, or are you just selling this product? There's plenty of people who are flipping product and they don't believe in it. It's just a job. It's just about the bottom line. I'm going to tell you a little story or two, if you don't mind. A good friend of mine, he's originally from Argentina, so he was in Argentina in the early 80s, and he wanted to come to the US to serve his spiritual teacher because his teacher was sick. So he went to the American Embassy in Buenos Aires in pant and shirt, and they refused him because they thought it's just another Latino who wants to come to the US and migrate and get a job. So the next day he went back to the embassy and he demanded to speak to the ambassador. And the lady came. She was a middle-aged lady. And she said, well, what can I do for you? And he said, yesterday I was here and one of your less intelligent bureaucrats rejected my application. Little did he know that in our tradition, serving and pleasing the spiritual teacher is very important. My guru is in America. He's sick. He needs me. I've traveled with him all over Latin America. He needs my help. And I want to go there and serve him because no one else can do the job at the moment. And she said, so you're not going to stay here? You're just going to come and go back? He said, yes, we're missionaries. We don't stay anywhere long. We're just moving all the time. She looked at him. She said, okay, I'll give you the visa. And as she got up from the table, she leaned over and she told him, I read Prabhupada's Gita. And then he took a Lilamrita out of the bag and he gave it to her, kind of like, you know. Because there's Marines and diplomats and police, you know, she's the top guy. She's the top person in the country. So, why did she ask him all these questions if she already read the Gita? You know why people ask you all these questions that they ask you? They want to make sure that you are who you say you are. They want to make sure you're legit. You're not just wearing the t-shirt, you're not just wearing the badge, but you're actually living it. That's what they want to make sure. And yes, you can say so many things, but Krishna is in your heart, he's also in their heart. And if you're faking it, Krishna will tell them, don't take it. He's fake. Sometimes you meet people and they look at you, they look at the book, they look at you, and if the two don't match, they say, no go. I like it, but not today, not from you, you know. I want the book, but I'm not going to take it from you. And you go like, you know, you feel like hammered. It's like, why could I not convince this person? I can tell you why. Because you're not convinced yourself. And you can only give what you got. If you don't have it, you can't give it. People are going to take one look at you, and they will decide, it's a visceral reaction. Do I want to end up like you or not? Do I want to become like you, or do I want to be away from you as far as possible? It's a very quick decision, especially in downtown Seattle, where there's all kind of creatures roaming around. So our first and foremost duty is to chant Hare Krishna and be miserable, right? Have you ever heard that saying? Really? Are you sure? Huh? So before you head out the door, look into the mirror and ask yourself, take the mask down, you know, face ID check, and ask yourself, would I like to meet this guy? If not, why not? What do I have to do to change myself so that people will walk up to me and say, dude, I want to be like you. Teach me. What does it take to be like you? And I know it sounds scary, but it will happen. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, maybe not in this great country where people are suffering from narcissism and a few other, you know, terminal diseases. But I guarantee you, the more we practice Krishna consciousness authentically, the more random people and family and friends and colleagues will say, dude, please teach me. I want what you have. Can you guide me? And then we have to be ready to share the message eye to eye. People can't stand it. If you're condescending, if you think like you're riding up there on the big white horse, or you're insecure, you're like, so whether you have an inferiority or a superiority complex, it's two sides of the same coin. Whether you're right wing or left wing, it's two sides of the same bird. It's called ignorance. And ignorance is the enemy. So I don't want to know whether you're blue or red. I don't know whether you're left or you're right. I want to know what makes you you. Why are you here? And how are you going to improve my quality of life? Now, I know all this stuff sounds pretty basic, but, you know, you win or lose a game in the basics, in the fundamentals. That's why the coach says, this is a football, okay? And it's a team play. So build your team. Going out alone is not easy. Like playing basketball or playing soccer by yourself or cricket is not easy, right? Yeah, you can go and you can throw a few balls, but after a while it gets a little old, right? It gets a little boring. But if you have a bunch of friends, this can go on for hours, right? If you have a whole team, well, then it's like no stopping. So build your team. But that means that I have to be a team player. That means that I have to value, I have to appreciate, I have to honor the others. I can't just be a ball hog. I can't just, hey, this is about me. I'm just going to show off my greatness. You can do that with your dog because you're feeding your dog, and then you can throw as many balls and as many whatever sticks you want, and they go fetch and all that stuff. But with people, it doesn't work so great. Even the carrot stick routine doesn't work so great after a certain age group, you know, because people are smart. So sharing the message means appreciating it and then communicating it in a language, in a way that that person can relate to. Just like, let's say, you speak to a non-Indian person and you use a lot of lingo or a lot of, you know, like Sanskrit words or temple words, you know, a different vocabulary. The person's just lost. They just don't know what you're talking about. Like, have you ever seen people trying to talk tech and you understand after like 10 seconds this guy doesn't know what he's talking about? He's finance, he's investment. He's got no clue about hardware, software, or any of the stuff that we're doing out here, you know? He has memorized a couple of key words, but he has no idea about the process nor about the goal, right? He's just trying to talk stuff. So, stay with the basics and just share what you appreciate. Just tell people. When I started out, I was 15. I told people I'm a monk, and people looked at me and they went like, does your mom know you're here? Old ladies would bring me chocolate. You know, this is Switzerland. So it was really funny. So after a while, I thought, okay, let's change strategy. You know, like monk is maybe a bit of a big word, you know. So, and I told them I'm a student. And they looked at me and they said, yeah, he's a student. Yeah, he's a kid. It's okay. I buy it, you know. I'm taking it. So be real. Just be you. Just tell them. I'm working for one of those, you know, big towers. But as a volunteer, I'm doing this to help people. And people will say, wow. Yesterday, I had a whole bunch of people who said, can we help? Can we come and do this? I said, yeah, sure. It's all volunteer-based, you know. The more people show up, the more we're doing. That's how it works. But if you tell them, no, you can't do this because you're born on the wrong side of the river, you know. You're not coming from my tribe, or you're not coming, you know, you haven't gone to my school, or this or that. Then they feel like, hey, what's your problem? You know, like you're talking the same talk like everybody else. So how is this different than any other church? How is this different than any other meditation? The difference is that Krishna consciousness is a universal science that is applicable, relevant, any place, any situation, to anybody. Do you believe that? It's our philosophy. It's there in the books. But we have to actually live it. Otherwise, if our theology, our legislation, and our practice are three different things, you'll be very unproductive in life. And people will call you a hypocrite, which is not just a nice thing. Huh? So we have to eradicate our own hypocrisy. We have to eradicate our own misconceptions. And that's a little painful sometimes because, part of the growing up process. So Prabhupada showed by example, and he took on feedback, and he failed forward. He tried many things. Many things didn't work. When the devotees came to India, they were chanting in the streets and people were throwing money at them. Prabhupada said, stop it. It's giving a bad image. Because they think you're just another bunch of musicians who want to collect money. So he said, go door to door and go to businesses and talk to people and give them whole sets of books and make members. And that's what they did. And that's what built the reputation. Then later on, when people understood ISKCON is something reputable, it's a brand, it's something good, then they could relate to the street chanting and all that. But before, they misunderstood. So you have to know your audience. And the audience may vary according to place and circumstance, to the times. So you have to really be in touch. But again, back to how to become more productive, how to become more successful. I guarantee you, money-back guarantee from this seminar, that if you do Sankirtan, if you do book distribution consistently, just for a very short time, this is the best investment that you can ever make in your life. I was a 15-year-old kid. I went to a boarding school in the Swiss Alps. I dropped out of 9th grade. I didn't go to high school. I dropped out of 9th grade. I bought a whole set of Prabhupada's books for $500, and it's the best investment I've ever made. I got all the books, and I started reading all the books. And because of that, Krishna has accelerated my development. And adventures, I mean, I can tell you stories till the cows come home. So writing a book about it, and the BBT is going to publish it, so you can have a look at that if you like. I want you to have your own adventures, because watching other people do stuff, after a while it gets a little boring, right? Like watching social media, or even watching movies, or watching this or watching that, watching the news. After a while you're like, I want to have a life. I want to experience stuff myself. I don't just want to watch a screen where dots are moving around. I want to. So I was up in northern Michigan near Mackinac Bridge in Sheboygan, and I was in Walmart parking lot, the great American institution, Walmart. Have you heard of Walmart? Just checking. And one man with his teenage son, he looked at me and he said, Prabhupada is my favorite author. And his son went like, what are you saying, Dad? Who, what is your favorite author? And he had to explain to his son why he appreciated Prabhupada's books. And to me, I was like, thank you, dude. It was worth driving all that way out there, to meet that person. And so I gave him a stack of books, and I gave him beads, and I gave him the Prabhupada movie, and he was super happy. And so that's a Prabhupada moment. That's like when your own appreciation, your own conviction becomes really strong. When you meet somebody. Like that ambassador lady, she had read the Gita. She's the top person in the country. So the books can go places we can't because we're limited. But the books, they can travel. So Washington, they have these big signs, like don't bring any fruit from outside because you may spoil our crops. Have you ever seen those signs? Or you don't drive, you only fly. So, like you bring worms and pests and whatnot. Because they're wary, they're, viruses. You heard of viruses? Computer viruses, hackers, all that stuff? So, what's the antidote to all these viruses? How can you hack your own defunct thinking? Like right now, you're not running at your optimum level productivity. Otherwise, you'd be ecstatic. You'd be blissful. You'd be just as happy as Larry, just singing and dancing down the street. But you're not. We're barely crawling, We're barely getting things done. Why? Because our mind and our material way of thinking are continuously keeping us down. And yeah, I can say, it's cold and it's wet and it's dark and it's this and it's that. But you know what? The sun is always out there. It's me who sees the clouds. Krishna's mercy is always available. That potency is always there. It's me who sees the negativity. It's my own defect, my own insecurity. Because I know plenty of people in Seattle who are Krishna conscious and who are blissful. So, we'll open up for questions in just a bit. Your sadhana must be strong, because you can only give what you got. So read the books and chant Hare Krishna. And then people will naturally be drawn to you, and they want to know what makes you you. Why you're not argumentative? Why you're not like all the other kids? Why you're not fighting? Why you're vegetarian? Why you do stuff differently? And then you can either give them a big talk or you can just hand them a book. And whatever we say, they will forget, but the book will stay with them and they can consult it. So then, sadhana has to be strong, okay? Rule number 1, you got to have strong sadhana. Don't chant while you're watching the news or, while you're doing homework or while you're doing other things on your phone. Just focus, okay? Focus. Number 2, you got to get books, because you can't give books that you don't have. So there's plenty of books here, so you get a stack of books. They will give them to you at nominal, just at cost. And you just carry them with you wherever you are. And you show them to people. The more you show, the more you sell. You ever wondered those fruit stands, why they put all their stuff out there? It's a lot of work, to put all the produce and everything nice. But you know why they put it out? Because the more you show, the more you sell. People will come and say, wow, I want 3 of those and 2 of those and 5 of those. And then, strong sadhana. Number 2, get books. Number 3, you got to show them. The more you show, the more you sell. And number 4, you got to organize. Of course, you're in Seattle, you're already organized. Otherwise, you wouldn't make it. You wouldn't survive in this city, right? You got to be organized. So you have to have a plan. What's your plan, man? When are you going to do book distribution? The food truck goes out 4 or 5 times a week. You can just work the line. People who are there, you just start having a conversation with them. Are you a regular? Are you coming here often? And then just hand them a book and say, this is why we do what we do. This is for you. And if you like to give something, give whatever you like, And you will be surprised that people are actually very appreciative. Because you answered their questions. You see? People will have 3 questions on their mind. Number 1, who are you? Number 2, what's this book? And number 3, what's in it for me? The bottom line. What am I going to get out of this? Sometimes you can just jump to number 3. Forget the other 2. just what's in it for me? If you can answer people's questions before they ask them, they will eat out of the palm of their hand. I guarantee you learn the art of asking the right questions, and he who asks the questions leads the conversation. How does a question mark look like? How does it look like? Work with me, people. Yeah, but what's that symbol, that sign? Huh? Kind of an S, or if it would be out of metal, what would it be? A hook. What do you do with a hook? You hook people. He who asks the questions controls the conversation. If you learn the art of asking the right questions, you can control the conversation. This is better than martial arts. This is the ultimate martial arts. So Prabhupada was not of very tall stature. He was very soft-spoken. But because he presented these dialogues that are there in the Gita and in the Bhagavatam, it's all questions and answers, by the way. It's all questions and answers. He presented them in such a way that people actually were able to process the information. They were actually able to catch on. Like now, we're talking pretty basic stuff. This is not high-level philosophy, esoteric. This is ABC. But so you can catch on, and you can actually build on that. Because the goal of this seminar is not that you put a like on some web page or you subscribe to some YouTube channel or you buy a t-shirt. The goal of this little workshop is that you start creating a team that is ready to play ball. Because this area is like Greater Detroit, Greater Metro Detroit, or like Greater Chicago, or like Bay Area. This area could do huge in terms of book distribution, in terms of preaching, there's all the demographics. Have you noticed that there's a few Asians out there? Did you ever see a few Chinese people? Huh? Just a few? Yes. Yeah, this is the first point of entry, you know. And they come down. Seattle. Are we relevant to them? Are we visible to them? No. Absolutely not. Why not? Because we don't have their food, because we don't have the language that relates to them. You may not even have the books in their language. I was in Tokyo, Japan, and I gave the class, and then there was a Bengali gentleman, and I talked Bengali to him, and I gave him a Bengali Bhagavad Gita. And the guy almost cried, you know, he was so over the moon. He's a scientist, he's working there. And he gave me $100 for a Bhagavad Gita, because he's just blown away that you know, I speak his language. Huh? Are we visible and relevant to the Latinos, to the blacks, to the whites? Not really, right? Because we're so scared. We're so insular. We just want to do our own little thing. But you notice, this is not Swami Narayan, which is a certain brand of Hinduism, you know, which is only accessible to, if you're Guju. If you're Gujarati, you know about Swami Narayan. If you're not, it just doesn't relate to you. But this is the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, which means any color, any creed, any background. Now I know you may not be comfortable or confident, but you have to grow your team. That means, like in your tech team, you have all kinds of players, right? You have the hardware players, the software, you have the legal team, you have the get stuff done team, you have the support team, you have the admin. It's a big thing. So in a similar way, you need to build your team. But initially, you just got to go out and do it and share the message. And you will see it's a great adventure. It's a great adventure. A lot of fun stuff will happen when you go on book distribution. So I'll close with one little story. What kind of a story you want to hear, guys? Huh? I mean, why are you here? What was your... Somebody told you should come, or... What do you want to hear? I got all kinds of stories, you know, so tell me.
What moment or situation marked the where you said, okay, this is it. Like, I'm not leaving this.
When I realized that this stuff works, not just for me, but for everybody. Initially, I just went and I distributed prasadam. We were giving out halava and lassi and invitation cards. And I learned all the arts of how to distribute so that people couldn't refuse me. Because there's an art to it, there's a technique. You just oblige people by being super friendly and super positive and just nice. So they just feel I have to take it. But then you will actually meet people who will tell you that this has changed my life. Who appreciate it more than you appreciate it. And there you're like, dude, I'm doing this, but you have a higher value of it than I have. So then you recognize the potency of the process. And that really makes you more serious. When, like I tell people I'm from Switzerland and everyone's like, oh, great, and this and that. And I'm like, yeah, not so great. You know, I grew up there. It's just normal. It's just everyday life, you know. But for them, it's like, wow, you know. So, okay, I'll leave you with this last story. I was in Ann Arbor, Michigan. We had the art fair. It's the biggest in the country. There's hundreds of artists who sell their paintings, art, jewelry, whatever they're making, and tens of thousands of people who go to buy art. And I just went shop to shop. I just went to all the artists and gave them books. And I said, did you make all of this? thank you for being out here. For all the conscious artists, we're giving this message because we would like you to communicate the essence of this through your art to the public. In public speaking, which, by the way, is one of the greatest fears of many people, public speaking. It's way up there with taxes and death and all that stuff. So in public speaking, there's an art. It's called one mind. Have you heard of one mind? You have to create one mind. There can't be two minds or three or five. There has to be one mind. So, as a little giveaway, a little freebie for you, if you were to ever have to make a presentation, create one mind. Where the person realizes that you and me, we're the same. We're on the same team. We're in the same boat. We're doing this together. It's not me against you or whatever. It's we're on the same page. Because they get it, you know. So, I went up to that booth, and lady, middle-aged lady, and she got very emotional. I handed her the Bhagavad Gita, and she said, when I was a young girl, I lived in Lithuania, which is Baltics, you know, former Soviet Union, and had many existential questions. But the Bhagavad Gita answered all my questions. But then when I was 16, how old are you guys? 15? 17? 13? Okay. You're 17? Okay. I became brahmachari when I was 15. So you're 2 years late, okay? So when I was 16, she said, my parents migrated to America. I had to leave behind my books, my art, my friends, my life, everything. We're going. And I had to start with nothing, from scratch. I know many of us have experienced that. And now, 35 years later, I'm an accomplished artist, and I'm doing what I'm doing. And you come back and you bring me the same book that has changed my life 35 years before. So she was like really hit by that. So when you see that impact that the process has, that the books have, that's when you realize, like, this is super potent, this is powerful stuff. Like if you do a lab experiment and stuff blows up, you know, like you burn down the lab and you're like, whoa, I gotta watch this, you know, like this is serious, this is intense. I built a school in Mayapur, about the size of this temple, and all of a sudden on the 4th floor we had water damage. And I was like, what the heck, there's no pipes up there. Why do I have water damage? I went, took a ladder, went up on the roof. And there was a tree about 4 feet high growing on the roof of the school. And I was like, how did a tree get up there? You know how the tree got up there? Bird eats the fruit, passes stool. The seed is inside the stool. It's fertilizer. There is air. There's sun. There is water. And boom! And the roots were going this way and that way for like 12 feet. And the roots were going through the RCC, through the reinforced concrete, through a slab like that, and breaking the roof. One seed. So don't go and waste your time with martial arts or playing video games or studying law. If you want to bring down an empire, study the Bhagavad Gita, study the Bhagavatam. The revolutions are caused by ideas. Gandhi was in jail. Nelson Mandela was in jail. The other guy who, down in Cuba, Fidel Castro. And they all wrote something and people read it and they thought, yeah, this guy's sensible. This guy's given his life for this. You know, there must be something to it. Why did Christianity spread? Because the martyrs. People sacrificed their lives. So others became curious. How come people can give their life and be so confident and feel so good about it? Because they're so convinced that this is the right thing to do. Now, we're not asking you to become a martyr or, you know, to do all kind of drastic stuff. All we're asking you to do is read the Gita, read the Bhagavatam. And then, whatever you like, you share it with others. And you'd be surprised. People will go like, wow, dude, did you just make this stuff up? Or This is cosmogonal. This is like really heavy, you know? And you tell them, hey, this is ABC, you know, like this is introductory, this is simple, you know? If you want heavy, I can give you more. So give people as much as they can handle. You show them a picture, like the changing body. You ever seen that changing body exhibit? Show them the changing body and say, you're not the machine. You're the driver. You're the spirit who travels. And for many, it's like, whoa, big news, right? Big news flash. Same thing, the chariot, you know, the senses and the mind, that analogy with the driver. So you just show a couple of pictures, and in this way, you distribute the book. And naturally, people will want to contribute, because whatever you value, people will value it. And there's enough resources out there. So please get started and build your teams. Right now, I see a lot of potential here, a lot of fertile ground, a lot of good work has been done. There's tons of good devotees and good players, but we have to get a game plan. We have to have a game plan, and we have to have a clear sense of execution. And then the sky's the limit. Did you know we just distributed 30,000 Bhagavatam sets for Bhadra Purnima? All around the world. 30,000 sets. How come? There was a game plan. And people worked together. We had a few Zoom sessions with, you know, Russia and India and South America and Europe and this and that and, you know, different people. It was a team effort. And it happened. Now, that's just a fraction, because there's over 1 million devotees, and 90% of them don't have all the books because people are busy doing other stuff. So get the books, read them, and then discuss them with your friends. And I guarantee you that you will have more adventure in your life that you could ever wish for. All of a sudden, people will start asking you, so what's your vision? What's your vision? What do you want to do? This is the last story, then we'll open up for questions. And then if you just say, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, you know, play video games. They say, okay, you can manage that by yourself. But if your vision is a little bigger, they may say, what if I'd help you? I have a friend in China, in Shanghai. It's the biggest train station of the world, Shanghai. Millions of people going through there every day. He distributes books there. It's highly illegal. There's security cameras everywhere. There's cops and security's being arrested countless times, interrogated. But he doesn't stop. So one man came up to him and said, what are you trying to do? What's your vision? And he said, I want to help the Chinese people by giving them this ancient knowledge. He looked at the books, he saw what it was, and he gave him $50,000. And he sponsored 100 sets to be put in all the libraries of China. So the devotee went and he put the books, he shipped them everywhere, and he gave that man pictures of all the librarians with the books and receipts from shipping and invoices and all that. So the man was so touched that this person is so honorable, he's so honest, and so diligent, so hardworking. He sponsored 800 sets. He spent 400 grand, 400K on Bhagavatams, on books. He said, okay, put 100 sets into Hong Kong, 100 sets into Taiwan, put it in every district library. So there's enough resources out there. There's zillions floating around in in outer space, as you know. It's just a matter of getting a game plan together. And that means we have to learn how to be team players. We have to appreciate and value each other and take feedback and be ready to improve. And if somebody says, I can't eat this because this is too spicy, or I can't eat this because this is too foreign to me, then you report back and you try to find something that's suitable, that's adequate to that person. So these are some reflections. I'm sure you came here, you had some questions or something that interests you, that you want to know, that you want to hear about. And wherever you see success, you can emulate it. Like you look what ISV is doing. They got, you heard of ISV, Iskana Silicon Valley? They got teams of young people who are going out distributing books. They have their own game plan. They make their own strategy. They have some supervision, but they're young adults, so they're smart. And you have all kind of different groups who are sharing the message in different ways. There is unlimited opportunity in this area and in other areas. So think along those lines. But initially it all starts with the why. Why should I do this? And I'll leave you with this. You may say, I'm fine. I don't need to do this, I got food in the fridge and I got my deity on my altar. You ever heard of Tapan Mishra? Tapan Mishra was a scholar, but he didn't know the goal of life nor the means how to attain it. Have you ever wondered? I mean, you met plenty of academics and plenty smart people who didn't know where the whole thing was going or how to get there. But he was a Vaishnav. He didn't know the goal of life nor how to attain it. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur explains that he was only chanting for himself. He was not trying to help others. He was not collaborating with other devotees. And that's why he didn't know the goal nor the means how to attain it. If he would have engaged in Sankirtan, he would have known the goal and the means how to attain it. Because that's exactly what Mahaprabhu told him. He told him, go to Varanasi, prepare things, I will come, and then you can help me to engage in this preaching. Because you need realization, and realization comes from application. Otherwise it stays information. But you want transformation. You want something to transform. You ever seen Transformers? Yeah? You want some transformation. But for that you need to apply yourself to the process. It's not theoretical. That's why you have to get into the lab. Yeah, it gets a little messy. Stuff blows up. Stuff catches on fire. Stuff doesn't work. You have to tweak it. And Krishna will give you the intelligence. In a purport to 10.10, Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam piti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayanti te. What's the translation of 10.10? You can ask Google, you can ask Siri, or you can learn the verse, okay? So your homework is learn 10.10. Can you remember 10.10? Bhagavad Gita 10.10? What does Krishna say? To those? No. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam pritipurukam. Yeah, and in the purport, in the last paragraph of the purport, Prabhupada says something very beautiful. He says, you may be in a spiritual organization, you may have a spiritual teacher, but you're still not getting it. But if you offer all that you do with love, then Krishna will bridge that gap and he will give you the perfection. So if we're just sincere and whatever we do it for Krishna with love, then Krishna will help us overcome those obstacles. And there will be obstacles, naturally. Greater obstacles than, the clouds and just, things that are really difficult. But Krishna will help us to overcome these obstacles. Questions? Yes. Yes, that's why you have to work on the fundamentals, on the basis, the foundational stuff. Like you have an equation, a mathematical equation, or any of you write code? You heard of code? You make one little mistake in the beginning, even if everything else was perfect, it's not going to work out. I have a godbrother, he's a billionaire down in Silicon Valley. He's one of the first inventors of the chip. He said the first company that he ever started, they made a chip, but there was a little leak in it. It was seeping data. It was not containing it. There was something wrong with it. I can't explain it because I'm not, trained in that field. And he said the whole thing went belly up, and they had to abandon that and start fresh because it just didn't work. So you have to work on your foundation. This building may look very nice, but if there's no foundation, it can crumble like a deck of cards. In a similar way, we may dress up and we may, do the talk and all of that, but if our gravitas, our center, is not strong, it will not sustain. Like now we see so many of our Indian friends come here and they do pretty well. But if they're not centered and they're not based on dharma, there's divorce, there is addiction, there is, you pay attention, right? It's there in every culture. No one is exempt from Kali Yuga. It's not, stupidity is not the prerogative of one class of people. It goes across the globe. It's a globalized phenomena. That's why ignorance is the enemy. And we have to eradicate it by knowledge. That's the antidote. That's why we give people books. Because it really helps people to improve themselves. And you meet many people, they just don't know how to live life. They just don't know what is life. I ask people, have you figured out consciousness? Have you figured out the mind? You may work in AI, but you have no clue about what is consciousness. What is awareness? Where does it come from? What does it consist of? What's the difference between a living body and a dead body? It's not stuff that you learn at MIT. But you learn it when you read the Bhagavad Gita, right? So work on the foundation. Every day. Every day. And that will make your strength. That will make your impact. Okay. Yes. You had a point?
Oh, no, I just had a question of
Sure.
curiosity about, since you started so young, did it ever come a point when you're an adult, when your mind kind of started to rebel against what you already had learned?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Constantly.
And how did you work that out?
It's like if you go mountain biking. I don't know if you guys ever rode a bicycle, because we're in car country here, but it's just an analogy. When you hit the mountain, you have to change gears. You can't roll with the same gear that you were rolling downhill or that you're rolling in the plains. Once you hit the mountain, you have to go into a smaller gear, and you pedal fast, but you go slow. So there's different stages in life, student stage, married stage, retired stage, and renounced stage. So we have to live a progressive life and take our challenges as they come along. Otherwise, if we're not really who we're supposed to be, then you're always out of sync and you're not really productive and you feel a little dysfunctional. That can happen. So that's why Vedic culture is a science, how to live life in a productive way. Just like when you go to school, you shouldn't be distracted by all the other stuff. You should just be able to focus on that. And then you're in household life, you do your business, you have your children, and then you move on and you do more work for the greater good of humanity. And then the last stage of life, you fully focus on spiritual topics and on giving back and on, being a role model and an example. But it's really weird if you have old people who try to do what teenagers were doing, or vice versa, just because they're not properly trained. So yeah, those challenges come. So there you need to have good mentors. You need to have people who can help you navigate through these obstacles. And sometimes you have to change gears. And it looks like you take it a gear down, and you're pedaling faster, but you're going slower. But because it's about getting somewhere. It's not about all the other stuff. Oh, I'm running, Some people are saying, we're doing this much, we're doing that much. Yeah, but what's the bottom line? Like, what's the result of it? Are you having impact? Is it transforming people's lives? Are you part of the solution, or am I part of the problem? We should ask ourselves. Okay? You're welcome. But failure is the pillar of success. Don't be afraid to fail. Nowadays, they just want to play it safe, None of the people who ever did something played it safe. They all went out there and risked and lost over and over, but kept on trying because they had full faith in the process. And if you have faith in God, if you have faith in Krishna, you know Krishna will make it happen. You'll succeed one way or the other. What is success? Is it scores up on a board, or is it knowing that you're doing the right thing? That means living a life of integrity, not compromising your principles. Because practice is what happens when no one's watching. Am I getting up in the morning? Am I chanting my rounds? Am I reading the books? Or am I just, going through the motions? Other questions? Yes. You got to speak up. Confidence comes from faith in Krishna, but confidence also comes from experience. One time, Prabhupada told His Holiness Giraj Swami that this Krishna consciousness movement will spread by experience and good organization. And good experience, Giraj Swami would ask him, so where does good experience come from? Prabhupada said, good experience comes from bad experience, because you make mistakes and then you learn from them. So don't be afraid to make mistakes. Not stupid or suicidal mistakes, but just, you're learning. It's like you're a kid. You start walking, you fall down so many times. It's natural. You ride a bicycle. You try to do anything. Very few people were born perfect. The majority of us had to kind of work and improve like that. So Krishna will empower you. When He sees your endeavor and that you're working with honest means, He will empower you. He will give you Shakti. He'll give you energy. Especially when you chant attentively. And you will see how it actually works. People come forward and they'll respond. There will be... Have you ever touched a live wire? Show of hands. Has it ever happened to you? Never? You never changed a light bulb, or you touched a circuit, or you got electrocuted? I mean, you notice there's some potency there, right? There's something going on. You got the buzz, right? So in a similar way, you meet a sadhu, or you read a spiritual book, or you have like that very life-changing experience, and you go like, whoa, I can't go back, because it happened. I realized this is real, and I need to continue, I need to pursue. Because why? Sooner or later, you come back to the same point anyway. You can deny it, you can say it didn't happen, but in a year or in 5 lifetimes, you'll be back at the same spot, trying to make the right decision. So many of the people, it takes many positive interactions before they actually take a book or before they start practice. So they have to have a consistent experience to build that confidence. You know how many times people walk by that food truck before they go there and eat something? Because people are skeptical, right? Because there's a lot of weird stuff out there. But after a while, they build up their confidence, and they're like, okay, let me eat. And then like, okay, let me talk. Okay, let me read. It takes a while. That's why it's important that we have realization. And then Krishna will empower you. He will give you the right words, even though you didn't know you had them. Did you ever go to an exam and something that you knew, you just forgot it, and it was there somewhere, but you couldn't write it down? And at other times, you didn't know the answer, but Krishna gave you the answer. And boom, it worked. Huh? So we all had that experience because Krishna does that. He does the magic. So if you want adventure, engage in this Sankirtan process and see how Krishna will just show you the miracles. Oftentimes people came and asked Prabhupada, can you do miracles? Swamiji, can you do miracles? I want to see the magic. And he just showed his hand and said, look, these are my miracles. I transformed these people from where they were before to what they are now. Yeah, you can go to the circus and you can see people pulling rabbits and, ashes and gold and doing stuff. But we know those are tricks. To transform a person's heart, their character, that's the real magic. Only God, only Krishna can do that magic. Huh? So he will empower you. Are you ready to be empowered? You won't misuse it? You won't become proud and show off? Feel very cool? Huh? Then punar mushtika bhava. Again you become a mouse. Huh? You know the story, right? The mouse was being chased by a cat, came to the sadhu, to the yogi, and said, I'm in trouble, help me. Sadhu said, okay, what do you want? He said, I want to be a cat. So he said, tatastu, so be it. So became a cat. Poof. Then cat was being chased by the dog, came back to the yogi. I want to be a dog. Tatastu. Poof. Then the dog was being chased by the tiger. Came back to the yogi. I want to be a tiger. Tatastu. Poof. That's pretty cool, huh? It's pretty good magic. And then the tiger sits there and licks his lips and shows his teeth and looks at the yogi. And the yogi says, what do you want now? And he says, I want to eat you. And he says, again become a mouse. Poof. And again he was a mouse. So we have to stay humble. You can't abuse what you gotten for your own ulterior purpose. But I'm just making this as a point. It's not directed towards you or anyone in particular. Other questions? Yes.
I want to give a chance to
Yeah.
So I'm sure you might have encountered this situation as you are distributed hundreds and thousands of books where when you are trying to give a book to somebody, but there is also a money aspect of it, Lakshmi aspect of it, so that it can be sustainable the book distribution. The other person is willing to take the book but not give the money.
Then you have to judge, you have to see, doesn't he have money? If he doesn't have, but he's really interested, I give the book. But if he how do you take that call? Krishna is in your heart, he will tell you. And you can see, If he's a student or he's homeless or he's really out of means, he's got to give something. You say, just give $1, give something. If they're not ready to give anything, it means they don't value it, So they're not really appreciating it. So then why just dump it on him? He won't take it seriously because he's not really appreciating. Huh? But if they paid by their interest, by their sincerity, then that's a payment also, It's not only money. They say, I'm really going to read it, I'm really interested and really looking into this. Or right now I just don't have any money with me, but, I may give later, I give at the food truck or whatever. That's fine, take it. You may not give him a Gita, you give him a small book or a medium book, whatever. But sometimes we're just not really convincing. Or we're not detached, and they can sense that you want something from them, so they're holding back. So they're becoming a little reticent. And then we have to learn how to overcome that. It's an art. That's why Krishna tells Arjuna, you have a right to perform your duty, but you don't have the right to enjoy the result, the fruit of your action. That's Bhagavad Gita 101, right? And even big management gurus, they say this is, Nishkam Karma Yoga. This is the Mahavakya. This is the big mantra, the big credo for them, right? Do your job, but don't be attached to the fruit of your work, right? That's what they're preaching. That's Bhagavad Gita 101. So sometimes people will say, I'll take it, but I'm not going to give you anything. And then sometimes you say, yeah, have it. One time I was in Mumbai, and just about to board the flight. It was just a line. I saw the lady was just picking up the mic to make the announcement. And I was like this. An American businessman right in front of me, he turned around and he looked at me and he said, are you trying to be a monk or what? And I said, yeah, I've been trying for past 30 years. You know, it's not easy. And I reached in my bag and I said, and this is for you. It's all explained in here. And I give him a Gita. And he was like, wow. He said something quite critical and he got a gift. So he was a little puzzled. Like, what's going on here? And he was like, can I give you something? And I said, you know what? Normally, we don't take anything. But for you, I'll make an exception. So he said, well, what should I give you? I said, some people give their whole life. If you can't do that, just give $1 million. If you can't do that, just, the lady picked up the mic and just give 1,000. He said, he just gave me 1,000 rupees. And we both boarded the flight. So the point I'm making is that the more we're ready to give, Prabhupada gave his time, his energy, his affection, his love unconditionally. At the same time, he was completely detached. Now we may think love and detachment are two opposites. They're not. Because if you truly love somebody, you also give them the freedom of not to reciprocate and not to love. So some people, they're not ready to reciprocate. And that means we just have to be patient. We have to be nice. And also take a few punches. Like when you're out there, it's not that you're just putting it out there. Sometimes you also get hit. And it's just part of the action. But it will make you stronger. Prabhupada was in the streets of Delhi. He got heat stroke. He was gored by a bull. People cheated him out of money. People going against him. His own people, his own god brothers. A lot of obstacles. Read the Mahabharata. Read the Ramayana. You want to have a cozy, peaceful life? Don't become a Hare Krishna. Don't worship Krishna. Because Krishna is tricky. Krishna is not playing by the book. He's God. He can make and break the rules. There's 2 policemen in Delhi, they're walking down the street, and one is telling the other, this is really bad, like we're policemen. And our God is a thief. Makanchor, he's stealing butter. And he's doing so many things. So this is not really good, like we're representing the law. And the God that we worship is doing things against the law. And the other one said, look, you don't understand. Krishna is actually, he's stealing people's hearts, So don't be caught up in details, Like Krishna just wants to extract the love of his devotees. That's why he does all these things. So we have to see past the apparent interaction that goes on sometimes and really connect to the heart, to the essence. And like here, there's no lack of resources. You got plenty of books, so you can just put them out there. If I know the people are not going to throw them away, I'll give the book. And somebody else will make up for it. So it's not monetary aspect. It's more about doing the right thing. So we're not throwing pearls for the swine. We're not just, we don't want people to make offenses, to be disrespectful. So you give them as much as they can handle. So I always say, are you going to read it? And then if not, they usually just give it back, But if they, I really want it, then give them the book. No harm. I was in Siberia, and I was giving a seminar, and there's 2 youngsters. And I asked them, how you became devotees? And they said, we're not going to tell. I said, why not? He said, they will tell you later. So then later, I talked to them, and they said, look, we were 2 street kids, and we were thieves. We were just stealing stuff. So there was a devotee with a book table. And one was talking to the devotee, and the other one was stealing the book. And then they got away. And then they went, and they read it. And then they said, now 10 years later, we're still here, trying to repay to Krishna what we stole from him. Krishna says, okay, you want to steal from me? Be my guest. See how far you get. You want to steal from God? Sure, no problem. See how far you're going to run. He's already there, waiting for you. So you can't outsmart Krishna. Sometimes people think, I'm going to come, just before 8 o'clock, and I'm going to take 5 of those lunch boxes, right? And I'm going to really save on money. But Krishna is going to affect that person. Their life is going to be changed. And eventually, They will want to do bhakti. They will want to serve and do something to contribute. So be magnanimous, but don't be attached, and don't be naive. Yes. You just got to have a plan. You just got to have a plan. Like you have a daily plan, you have a weekly plan, you have a monthly plan. So you just know this is the time, like you're a mother. So you know, if I don't chant before the kid gets up, it's going to be a big struggle. So I just have to get up and do my chanting before the kid wakes up. Otherwise, it's going to be hell. So in a similar way, you just plan the time for preaching, the time for book distribution, and you involve the kid. I know plenty of moms, they just take the kids with them. You know, they go to the prom, they go walking in the park, they carry a few books. I know somebody who walks their dog, and the dog has a little pouch on the back, and it's got books in the side, and people go like, "Hey, cute dog, what's that on that dog?" "Oh, those are books." "Oh yeah, you can have one here for you." You know, and the dog distributes books. So an old lady in Mayapur, she dresses herself up like, you know, like these Ramayan figures, and she's really expert at doing all the makeup and everything. And people want to take pictures of her. And she says, "Yeah, you can take a picture, but you have to buy a book." So, you know, you can use everything to your advantage. Don't see it as an obstacle, see it as an advantage. Yeah. Yeah. Whatever you can doing, but find your groove, find your routine that works for you. Not too much and not too little. That's the message of the Gita. It's a constant balance, a constant fight of readjustment. Sometimes you push too hard, it pushes back. Sometimes you don't push hard enough and you feel like, I'm not doing anything, I'm just wasting my life here. So it's a constant, but without tension, there's no growth. You can't grow muscles unless there is tension, unless you actually move. You can't. There's just atrophy sets in, and you just get sucked back into the earth by gravity. You know, so you have to be active. And Sankirtan is the Yuga Dharma. It's what gives life. It what gives realization. It what gives juice to the whole thing. We've seen plenty of nice churches and temples and mosques around the world, but we want to meet the people who you know, and hear from them why they did what they did. That's what's interesting to me. I've been to Rome, I've been to Venice, I've been to Florence. I've seen all that. I want to know, how could people build these things for 150 years? They would not see the completion of it. They gave their life for that. They gave their wealth for that. How could they do it? What was their faith? What was their... They were not slaves. They were believers. Why did they do it? That's what's interesting to me. So, other questions? Last question? Yes, Prabhu. Hmm. Yes, absolutely. When you do the outreach, you have to plan the follow-up. It's like a farmer. When he plows the land and he puts the seed, he already plans for the cultivation and for the harvest, because it's all part of the same cycle. Like if you don't have finance department, you know, your company is not going to go very far. So in a similar way, we have to plan the follow-up. Some may not. The response is not always the same. Depends. The yield depends on different factors. Depends on the soil, depends on daiva, the time, the rain. There's different factors. It's not in our hands. But like here, there's a lot of fertile soil. There's a lot of potential. And we can learn also from other groups. Like Christians. They're collecting billions in the first world and they're pumping it into, Assam and Tripura and Nagaland and Adivasi places. And they're, converting entire states and countries. Because here they're losing ground. But they're strong. They're the majority. So emulate success wherever you see success. And wherever you see failure, try not to make the same mistakes. Because it's been done before. It's not a new game. We just have to put our heads, our minds together. Otherwise it will stay small and we'll just stay very insular, very insecure. We just do our own little group thing, our few festivals.
So what I hear is that there will be opportunity, like some places are more successful, but then over here we have challenges, like especially the locals, right?
They need a different type of approach. They may not be able to relate so much to this. They may need they may need a little center, like a storefront, or they may need a Krishna house, like for students, where they share living together and have a morning program, like that. So you have to have your thinking hats on, like strategy. It's about marketing. You have to have different products for different clientele. And you can't say this is better, this is worse. It's a different demographic. They need a different approach, a different type of style. But they're very interested. The Latinos are very pious. They're very spiritual people. The Westerners are a bit confused, but they're also sensible and they're looking for opportunities. So if we're there offering something of value in a way that they can relate to it, they'll take it. They'll take it. Because Krishna is all attractive. So we just should try not to get in the way. Try not to block him, and say, he's mine. No one else is going to get it. Because the more we share, the more we actually will get. The more you give, the more you get. You ever noticed? Like some days, you just give and you have nothing left for yourself, but you're fully satisfied. And at other times, you think you got it all, and you realize you got nothing. So it's really magic. It's magical. It's a real adventure. So I can see from my own life and from the lives of so many others that those who sacrifice, they do the yagya, they put in time, effort, and resources for trying to help others. Krishna takes care of their life. Krishna protects and guides them. And that's real mercy. That's real blessing. Because at the end of the game, all the toys go back on the shelf. Nobody cares how many cars you had. Nobody cares, how many zeros are there. All people want to know is, what makes you you? What was your mission? Were you just another economic or political or social refugee? Or, they asked Prabhupada, why did you come here? We got religion. We got this, that, and the other thing. Prabhupada said, I've come here to give you a brain. That's pretty bold. Huh? I come here to give you what you have forgotten. So appreciate Krishna consciousness and share it. And Krishna will do the magic. He will empower you. And we should start study groups, Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti Vaibhav, Bhakti Vedanta. People should become educated in our philosophy and theology. Because believe it or not, when people read the books, they're actually going to come here. And they're going to have a bunch of questions. But if we're not here to answer those questions because we're too busy out there doing other stuff, they will say like, hey, you guys are great in first contact, but in cultivation, not so much. A farmer who doesn't harvest tends to be very poor. We have to actually bring in the crops, and then, so it's a big job. It's a big job, guiding people. It's not a one-person affair. We can't say, oh yeah, Hari Vilas Prabhu, it's his business. He has to do that. It's the Guru's business. No, it's everyone's job. Like you walk into a good establishment, and you ask any employee. They may not have all the answers, but they can direct you in the right way. You know, like they can take care of you. Why? Because they've been trained. So we have to make sure that our own people are trained in such a way that if somebody walks through that door, somebody comes, they actually get the ISKCON experience. Not just, oh, what's in it for me? You know, like what can I gain from you? But what can I do for you? What can I give you? That's really attractive. Because when I came to the temple, there was this young kid going to school. But people gave me books, prasadam, beads, but mostly they gave me time, affection, attention. And I had devotees who were answering all my questions. That was very endearing. Made a big difference in my life. Today, 40 years later, I'm deeply indebted. There's 3 devotees, Amatattva, Gauralila, Rajavidya. I could call them any day of the week, any time of the day, and say, okay, I got my 2 pages of questions. Are you ready? And and they would, and that's what we have to do. I know it's easier to deal with certain demographics who just want to know who's my guru and who is my deity, you know, and that's that. They don't have that much problems. If you deal with Westerners, they have a lot of questions. There's a lot of groundwork to cover, right? But you will see that if you want to be relevant to the locals, you have to have locals who preach to the locals. Because the others will always think like, yeah, you're just here for a short while, you know, you just came here for your job. Show me somebody from here who's doing this, you know. That's, yes.
Yes, it is very nicely you put it. I often think, I'm the part of the problem. Like Srila Prabhupada, in one conversation, he mentioned that, during the preaching to the Indians, he was not against it, but he was
Yeah.
saying, we are here to preach the locals. Who are actually, whatever country you are in, you want to cultivate them, because he's saying, Indians, they are here only to make money, right? And he made a comment like that.
Yeah, unless you train them properly like you see at ISV. They're also doing IT, they're also making 6 and 7 figures, but they're also preachers. They're also cultivating, they're also making devotees. It depends on how you train people. It all depends on the why.
But that's one thing, but when locals come in, if they see 90%, 95% of Indians, they think like, oh, it's an Indian thing, right?
Yeah, so you create another space, you create another locale, another environment. It can be a home program, or it can be a storefront, or it can be a restaurant, or a cultural place, or you rent something. And you do programs there, in their vicinity. And that's more relatable. And you can support it.
So, some temples are successfully done, like Krishna Lounge.
So many places have done it. Even right next to the temple, or even in one room of the temple. You just put a few couches around. And like now here, we're not talking here Vedanta Sutra, we're just talking common sense. We're just talking basic stuff. But it kind of makes sense. Or maybe I'm delusional because I'm fasting. But it kind of makes sense, right? So, and that's what you have to do. Because if things don't make sense, people feel that their intelligence is insulted. They will say, okay, I'll be polite till I get out the door, but that's not it. Have different norms, and we have to respect that. Like you don't go up to an Asian and you try to do fist bumps or slap them on the back, because they'll feel offended by that. They think this is very strange. Like even somebody of the disciples went up to Prabhupada and gave him a big hug, and Prabhupada just stood there and said, this is not required, Like he appreciated the expression of affection, but as far as he's concerned, he wasn't into, giving everybody a big hug. Because that just wasn't his thing, culturally. So you have to know your audience. It's a big thing, yes. Oh, we're being watched. Every word can be used for or against you. Yes. Yes. Yeah, it starts early in the morning. Get up early and leave your phone in flight mode till you finish your rounds. Don't do phone stuff. You know? 70% of people in this great country check their messages before they go to the bathroom. I don't want to see a raise of hands who belongs to those 70%, but don't do that to yourself. First, you get up, do your bath, do your chanting, do your spiritual program, and then don't worry, the messages will still be there. There will be more messages. So, okay? Focus. Focus means one thing. Okay, if you're a lady, you can multitask because you learn how to do that, but still, you have to focus. Ekanishta. One-pointed intelligence. Dridhavrata. Not bahushaka. Because when I talk to you, you want that I talk to you, right? If I be looking over here and talking, I know that half of the audience would phase out. They would just drop. They would just drop off. That's why this whole online stuff and zoom in and zone out, is not really working on the long run. Because you don't really know whether you have people's full undivided attention. Because they're doing a bunch of other stuff, they're just letting the thing run and they're not really there. But here, I'm making sure that those who are here are actually here. Because otherwise, I won't tolerate it. Because as an educator, I know what my objective, what my duty is. So I make sure that the people who came actually got what they came for. And the same thing when you have a conversation, when you're dealing with a person. Have you ever had somebody who was there fully for you? Totally, completely there for you. Undivided attention, no agenda, just like gave themselves fully. It really touches your heart. It really captivates your attention, right? Those are the people who who are memorable. Those are the few, that stood out. If you learn that art of being fully there, fully present for others, they will pay you back with the same currency. They will reciprocate. That is Sankirtan. Just like you see here, Mahaprabhu, they're chanting and dancing. They're fully present, fully interacting, fully there. And Mahaprabhu did the magic. He did the miracle. Even though there was many groups who were chanting, Mahaprabhu appeared in each and every group. But only few saw it. Not everybody saw it. Only a few saw it. The miracle got revealed to them. So same thing when you dedicate to the mission of Guru and you take a little effort and risk to go on preaching and distribute books, Krishna will empower you. He will reveal the plan, how he's actually doing it. And that will be very blissful. That will be very endearing. It will be very appealing to you. And your faith will become very strong. Nishta, ruchi. And yes, there's an artha-nivritti and a sakti and all those things, but, then you will feel bhav. You feel actual, real happiness. So, make a game plan, assemble the team, train, and execute. What gets rewarded gets done. I want to know, what's Team Seattle doing? I'm not concerned about individual score. It's about group score. What's Team Seattle doing? How many books did we do last year? What's our goal for this year? If you don't know the goal, you don't know where you're going. It's like the spinning wheel of fortune, Google Maps. Oh, rerouting. If you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. So what is your goal? What are you trying to achieve here? 12 temples? Or, what's your goal? These are topics that have to be discussed. And then the execution part, you're already good at that. I'm just here to ask the questions. So invite all your friends and create Sankirtan teams. They can be chanting out there with the food truck. They can be book distribution out there. And they can be other venues. They can be other types of engagements. There's so many good schools, so many good universities here in this great city. Student clubs should be there. We should be there, making it relatable. Because how many people will come here and walk through the door? Very few. Very few. So meeting the people where they're at and giving them Krishna consciousness. It's a great adventure. Prabhupada did it, and it's our legacy, it's our tradition. Krishna says at the end of the Gita, and I will leave you with this short story because it's almost 12 and I need to get to Portland for my next program. One time I was in Siberia. Do you know where Siberia is? You know where Siberia is? Huh? Far end, yeah. Novosibirsk. It was minus 35. Whether it's Celsius or Fahrenheit, it's the same thing. It's minus 35. It's cold. It's cold, you know. And I have a doubt. You know, to have doubts is the sign of intelligence. I have many doubts, so I must be very intelligent. So, it was a joke. So, one doubt is, what if all of us become useless? What if we all become a little too comfortable, a little too lazy, a little too self-indulgent? And we lose it. We just become another organized religion that just worries about their own benefit and not so much about others. But somebody told me a story in Siberia that I would like to share, and I'll close with this. There was one devotee, he went out onto the street in Siberia and he was distributing Bhagavad Gita. And he met another devotee who was also distributing Bhagavad Gita. And he went up to him and he said, "Hey, Prabhu, which temple are you from?" And the other person said, "I don't know any Prabhu and I don't know any temple. What are you talking about?" And he really got puzzled. Like, you're doing this and you don't know temple or Prabhu, you know? So he said, "Who are you? What are you doing? Why are you doing this?" And the other person said, "Look, 2 years ago I met somebody like you and I bought Bhagavad Gita. And I read it. And it's the best book I ever read in my life." And at the end of the book, Krishna tells Arjuna that if you want to become dear to me, you have to give this knowledge to others. Nachatasya manusheshu kashin me priyakritama. You know that verse, right? So, and you know what he did? He went to the copy shop and he had 100 copies Xerox copied. Did he ever Xerox copy a 1,000-page book? And he had it bound. And he went up on the street and talked to people and said, "Hey, look, I read this book. It's a great book. You should have it. And it cost me this much to copy it. So please give me something." And my doubt, even if every one of us here will lose it, if we all just become totally materialistic, somewhere in Siberia, somewhere in the Sahel Desert, somewhere in Patagonia, somewhere in Washington State or somewhere in Jharkhand, some kid will find the Bhagavad Gita and read it and say, "Hey, this is it. We need to do this. We need to give this to others." And they will start the process again. Why? Because seeds are powerful. They had seeds in the pyramids of the Egyptian pharaohs. And after thousands of years, they took those seeds out of those pots, put them in the ground, and poof, plants, trees came out. Seeds are powerful. So books are containers. They contain ideas. They contain seeds. Be mindful of what kind of media and what kind of information you consume, because all kinds of creatures and all kinds of plants may grow in your heart and in your mind. And choose your association wisely. There are many options. There are many opportunities. Krishna has been very kind. He has given you a great opportunity. He has given you a very fertile area. Washington is exporting not just a lot of technology, but also a lot of fruits, as you may have noticed, into the country and into the world. So we should be able to export Krishna consciousness. some of these greatest ideas, the greatest fruit. Pibatta bhagavatam rasamalayam muhurmuho bhuvibavuka. This most juicy fruit, this most sweet mango that has been handed down through Guru Parampara. We should be able to export that all over the world, all over the universe, from here. But yes, it requires a team effort. It's not a one person's job. So thank you all for being here, being who you are, and doing what you do. Please take the message and share it with as many people as you can. Because you know, sharing means caring. When you share something with others, your heart grows. You become more happy. You become much more fulfilled. That is the process of Krishna consciousness. It's the process of giving. Prabhupada lived in Vrindavan. He had everything. He was perfect. He was sitting at the lotus feet of Rupa and Sanatan in Radha Damodar temple. Perfect life. But he left that to come to US on a cargo ship with 40 rupees. How many of you came with 40 rupees? Show of hands. No expectations. Serving all those confused people. Took many months before people took interest. Took many years before results started to manifest. But he had faith in the process. And the miracle happened. And now we're sitting here. So, it's working. As you can see, it's working. So, appreciate it and share it. Prabhupada stayed up every night and wrote 6 pages. Got up at midnight. Went to bed at 10, got up at midnight. Only slept 2 hours. And then took a nap throughout the day again. Maximum 3 to 4 hours he slept. So every night he wrote 6 pages. And in this way he wrote 80 books. And 500 million copies have been distributed. And you can go anywhere in the world and say Hare Krishna and ISKCON. And people say, okay, yeah. I know. It's a brand name. But I want to know, what's your realization? Why are you doing what you're doing? And whatever your reason is, that's good enough. For whatever. But be ready to upgrade your operating system. Do you upgrade your operating system sometimes? Rhetorical question, right? So be ready to upgrade your consciousness. Don't be stuck and say the way I see things now is the way it's gonna be forever. No, we have to evolve. Krishna wants us to grow. And to the degree that we grow and we collaborate together, to that degree Krishna will empower us and he will give us unlimited opportunity. There's no lack of resources. The only obstacle is our separatist mentality, our insecurity, our territorialism, our entitlement mentality, plain old Maya. Bhayam ditya abhiniveshata syat ishadapitasya viparyo smritihi. All these things can be overcome by hearing the Bhagavatam and by sharing this message. So thank you for taking interest and dedicating yourself to this process. I know you're working extra time, super hard, to make it here. Yet, success is defined by how closer we come to our ultimate goal. That is real success. It's not just about collecting prizes and trophies and things, but it's really about progress is defined by how much we are actually getting closer to our ultimate goal. So don't sell yourself short and say, oh yeah, now I'm a resident, or now I'm a citizen, or now I'm a this, or I'm a that. And don't sell yourself short. We are all supposed to be agents of change. We're all supposed to be part of the solution. Anybody can do that, provided that we have faith in the process and we take shelter of the instructions of the spiritual master, Guru Parampara. Thank you very much for keeping this oasis alive and for giving me the opportunity to be with you. I wish you happy Sankirtan and looking forward to hear the good news of Team Seattle What's rocking out in the Northwest? That's what I want to know. Huh? Okay? All right, we'll be in touch. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to all the assembled devotees. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindubhyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Happy Ekadasi. Hare Krishna. Hari Om Tat Sat.